Kryptonana, exit liquidity hodl nana, dump it all. Kryptonana, exit liquidity hodl nana, dump it all.
Kryptonana, exit liquidity,
dump it all.
hodl nana, dump it all.
Kryptonana, exit liquidity hodl nana, dump it all. Kryptonana, exit liquidity hodl nana, dump it all.
From the day we arrive on the blockchain and blinking step into the trade, there's more to lose than can never be won, more to dump than can never be saved.
I'm switching over. I'm going to retweet. All right.
Everyone officially. I think that was enough of the circle of liquidity. Just give you guys a taste, because otherwise we'd be here just like grooving out to this forever. But I feel like it was very appropriate to start off the show like this as opposed to otherwise, because Sailor's in the hot seat these days, and for someone as petty as me, I like it. So anyway, happy Friday. How's it going, Mark? How's your week been? I've seen you kind of out there a little bit more on the X's.
Yeah, I've been trying to get a little bit ahead of things on X/Twitter. But yeah, it's been an exciting week for everybody and for us in the Zcash ecosystem specifically. Where should we begin? I think just macroeconomically is some interesting times going on because Bitcoin's under 100K now, and
yes,
people are losing confidence rapidly.
Which is just, I am gonna have to I didn't queue up all the right posts on this thing yet, but I'm kind of looking into some of this stuff right now, queuing it up in the pre-chat version. But yeah, this stuff it's pretty funny. I see Paul Brigner's back on, posting some fun, sassy comments about that. At least he didn't tell him that this would be his end. But, there's always time for that.
Well, I posted about Schadenfreude recently, and I said that my favorite kind is when you watch a cat misjudge a jump.
Yes.
And it just scrambles and then just eats shit onto the floor. That's kind of how I feel right now in certain ways. Because, of course, it's like the Cassandra effect. You've been calling this stuff out for a long time, and everybody's like, Bitcoin's just fine. Leave it alone. It's perfect. And you're wrong because you just don't understand something about Bitcoin that I understand. And it's like, okay, well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I like to be adversarial. I'm not one of those people who's like, we can coexist together. It's like, nah.
Yeah, it depends on who we is, right? I can coexist with some of these mofos, but not everyone. Yeah.
It got me thinking about what the actual use case for Bitcoin is. And it seems like it's this sort of institutional thing now. And it seems like its transparency is actually a benefit, where it's it's a public good that we can see what's in sailors' bags or something like that. That's sort of
he doesn't like that though.
Too bad, dude. Caveat emptor. You should know how the technology works that you're using to do your weird investment games. That's what I've been chewing around in my head recently, is okay, is this an institutional thing, and is that what we should think of it as? Because it's that cliche of the purpose of a system is what it does, which I don't fully agree with. But in this case, it's kind of interesting to be well, what it seems to be doing right now is propping up these. I don't know, you had a good way of describing this sort of tokenomics of strategy, right? Do you want to run us through that?
You mean the shitcoin printer one?
Yes,
Okay.
it's a fun reversal of fiat and crypto in terms of shitcoining, which is I like.
Yes. I'm gonna queue it up here really quick because I've been posting a lot of these things actually. I've been, you know, it's pretty funny, to be honest. I gotta queue it up in proper order because I have like 4 posts on this in a row, and people got salty. But let me actually just run the intro, the official intro for this thing, and do the Coin ATM show.
Okay,
and then because it is topical, it's not pre-show chatter. It's like this is the stuff. All right, intro time. So welcome everyone officially, and happy Friday. Happiest of Fridays to you. Friday. This is episode 200 and what did I type in? 211, I guess, of the Digital Cash Rundown. One of those. Feel free to fact check me. And that means I've been doing it since mid 2020 straight. I've been joined by the one and only Mark Henderson, or Shielded Mark. How's it going, man?
Great. I'm awesome.
Yeah, so this is your second time on the show. I was going to just do like a regular interview for it, and then it just ended up being Zcash's birthday, so I'm like, hey, let's make it a live stream. So it's kind of like a live streamed interview, which is kind of what this is, but this is also a news show. So like, cool. For all practical purposes, the second time, it's like not almost the exact same thing, except less. So tell me about your job and what you do, and more just like talking shit,
Yeah, let's just riff on what's going on in the world today.
And there is some fun stuff going on, and I've been very sassy on some of this. So let's hit the Coin ATM radar shill, because this is what makes me get out of bed to do this consistently, is the sponsorship by Coin ATM Radar. So as you should remember, when buying crypto with cash, an ATM is much more reliable and safer than meeting a random person in a random place. And unlike an exchange, which could freeze your account, you truly do own all the crypto you buy. Not to mention, if you care about like the privacy of the flows, obviously if you have to KYC at a machine, that's different. But like cash in, digital cash out, there's nothing better than that. So with Coin ATM Radar, you can definitely find different crypto ATMs and other services to buy or sell cryptos for cash, as long as the government in your jurisdiction is still allowing that stuff. On their website, search by coin, address, if the ATM supports selling as well as buying, and you can also search by geographical area, such as country, state, and city, and you can check and compare actual fees at different ATMs. So to find out more, go to coinatmradar.com or coinatmradar.com. Now, one thing I do know, they do have a Zcash option here. It's got to be much more rarefied, but I don't see a single Zcash ATM in the only one in New England I see is in West Hartford. And
West Hartford, Connecticut.
Yeah, it seems like they only sell Bitcoin and Zcash there.
That's really interesting. We need to make a field trip, I think.
A field trip. I have done field trips to ATMs to find that they were like shut down, and it was just not good.
I mean, to figure
out hopefully
who the hell is buying a Zcash ATM, and then encourage them to put another one next to it.
Yeah, it's so whole Bitcoiner 2574. I wonder how much Bitcoin he has. Commented on YouTube. He says, Sailor's 2000's SEC SmackDown is the ghost haunting his Bitcoin gospel. A fraud find hype artist whose insatiable hunger is just starvation in denial. That is some poetry.
That's bar.
Like that's, they say like don't read the comments. I mean, if they're like poetic like this, you can. I mean, that's like, it could have been GPT generated though. That's the unfortunate part. If it's a little too well written, it's like, I don't know. Is it? So
it smells a little bit like a GPT thing to me.
Yes, and watch poor homeboy get all salty about that. So sorry about that. In case you weren't, that wasn't it. But yeah, the Sailor stuff. I had a series of posts just because every time I posted something, someone would get triggered, and so I just do a reply post to it, and then someone else would get triggered, and I kept
Who is
hitting it up.
defending this guy? I don't understand that.
Yes.
Just buy Bitcoin if you are interested in getting exposure to Bitcoin. It's so easy to buy a Bitcoin. You can just
Especially
do
on
it.
coinatmradar.com. You
Yes,
can cash in or anything
Meat
else.
space.
Like,
Yeah.
so as I posted this thing about like, he sort of tricked a lot of people with this stuff. But let me just put this. So what I said, was it yesterday? I said Saylor's strategy does something very straightforward: buys something scarce, Bitcoin, with something that isn't fiat. He runs out of fiat, so he takes on fiat debt. He runs out of fiat debt, so he prints his own tokens, i.e., shares, all the weird different shares he has, to sell. The crazy thing is, fans of his strategy to buy scarce things with unlimited things are the ones buying his unlimited things. No actual Bitcoiner should own any of Strategy's products. And that did get some people triggered. So, hot take on that one before we move on to the next one.
Yeah. Well, I think I posted this quadrant, my proposal for the new political spectrum quadrant for crypto Twitter this morning.
Is that the Schizo one or whatever?
Yes, yes. So
Let me put that up. I actually have that one queued up later on in the thing but I'll it's probably worth putting here. All right, so let me put that on the screen. So why don't you walk us through this majestic piece of art?
So is it the graphic?
Yes, clean,
Okay.
schizo, whatever.
Yeah, so on the neutral axis, you can be anywhere on this axis, and there's no value judgment. You can be a normie or you can be schizo. But then on the value axis, you sort of have clean at the top and then sicko at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Saylor falls squarely into the sicko normie category here. And because it is an interesting reversal of fortune, where there's usually you print shit coins and you do that as hard as you can, as many of them as possible, to gather fiat or some other cryptocurrency, and then you dump them and cash out, where he's sort of done the opposite now. He's sort of found a way to like shitcoinize his Bitcoin treasury with these like different tickers that he keeps doing IPOs for and things like that. So I don't think that's that hot of a take, though. I think it's just
yeah, but
I
it is
thought
kind
it
of
was until I saw your replies. And then,
yeah,
but
which
people
is
took issue with your no true Scotsmaning, I think, of what an actual Bitcoiner is.
yeah, because listen, I'm gonna just say it, and it might not be factually accurate, but I'm pretty sure it is. The no true Scotsman objection people own Saylor shitcoins. Like literally, that's it. Like they own these shitcoins. I made him feel bad because I called him out of shitcoins. And they're like, "Well, who are you to determine?" I'm like, I'm nobody, but you should be embarrassed by your holdings that you probably won't admit to having. But I know you have them, because why else would you get all defensive about this? So I'm willing to be like wrong on this, but like I'm not.
I was in a space with a lot of the trader charting type people. They do charts and they cast their spells, their esoteric little pentagrams on top of the charts and things like that.
Yeah.
And
Draw lines.
yeah, the sorcery, which is fun. I like that guy Eric Van Tassel. He's my current quant. I like his things, but they were talking about. First of all, they hate fundamentals. If you try to talk any fundamentals with them, they're like, "Get out of my face! I don't want to hear about shielded pools. I don't want to hear about this or that. I just all we care about is the chart." But I asked us, because they were talking about, I think they were talking about strategy or something, and I was like, "Why would anybody?" It's the same question. Why not just buy Bitcoin? And the answer was something like, "Well, you can put this in your 401k, for example." Like you can use TradFi instruments with these things now. And I thought that was at least the only like steel-manable kind of argument to trade with these tickers or these instruments or whatever. But then I realized like nobody's going to put this in their 401. There's no like mutual fund. I mean, maybe there is. That would be crazy if like, Vanguard has MSTR in one of their prospectuses or something. But I mean, maybe 5-10 years down the road. I don't know. But this also raises the whole cypherpunk Winklevoss thing. I think it'd be remiss to talk about strategy without talking about cypherpunk, because it's currently, not behaving as you described in terms of strategy, but there's nothing saying that they wouldn't do that eventually or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on that as somebody who's like, I feel like I'm too in it. I'm too in the Zcash community to have an objective stance on cypherpunk. Cypherpunk Incorporated, for those of you who don't know, we're talking about ticker CYPH.
Yes.
And they bought a biotech company, and then we're like, you're not doing biotech anymore, except maybe you are. But also you're a Zcash treasury company now, and we're changing your ticker and your company name. And that's easier to do than just doing an IPO and making a new thing. So yeah.
Yeah, dude, that is like, I have to admit that, again, I'm a fundamentals guy, right? So that's, sorry to annoy trader people.
Same, pretty much, yeah.
But like, so all my commentary on the whole strategy thing, etc., it's all sort of fundamentals based. I'm actually not very deep into this thing, but every time I scratch below the surface of the DATs, I'm just like horrified by what I see, kind of. And there's some cases where I'm not. And so I think that Litecoin's big ETF thing was like some medical pharma something or other company that then they turned into a Litecoin treasury company. Okay. And there's a few other, I keep hearing this like medical, like it's surfaced a few times. Many such cases. And so the thing is, the 401k part is a real thing, that it is a institutional investment that you can therefore do that with. But so is an ETF. So I understand if you don't have an ETF available to you, like is there a Zcash ETF right now? I don't think so, right?
There's a trust and there's a treasury company now. And I'm too stupid to know the difference between the Grayscale Trust and the Winklevoss Treasury.
Yes. So I don't know exactly what, like it would be very nice for like, the problem is I would have done the research on this if I cared. The problem is I don't, because for me, I want real.
Good thing we're talking about it in front of a bunch of people.
Yes, exactly. But that's the point of this live show, is pure unadulterated ignorance. Like this is why we come. It's like, I don't know, your crypto, how does it work? What makes it zero knowledge? Oh, like, I mean, this is why you brought out the big guns for this. But the point is, there's a whole bunch of different products that do a bunch of different things. I do know what an ETF is, right? But the DATs seem to be a much lower barrier to entry for the average investor, as far as like how easy it is to get one and get access to one. And so that's the consumer level benefit. Now the production benefit, or whoever creates it, is obviously you don't have to do some like well-structured, well-regulated like spot ETF type thing. You can just be like, guess what? Steak and Shake is going to buy a bunch of Bitcoin, and now you can invest in Bitcoin by buying Steak and Shake stock or whatever. It's like, oh, okay.
Right.
It gets a little weird. Yeah. Now, where you're cannibalizing businesses and turning them into a thing, that's like, it's literally like the modern day investment version of Spirit Halloween, where there's just some old busted up strip mall, and you just like come in and just like
your Halloween store now. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the Spirit Halloween.
Love Spirit Halloween.
I do need to do a meme now that kind of turns like companies, and you're now a DAT, like, yeah, it's the new Spirit Halloween. So I should point, my buddy Ruben of Firo posted this thing where he says, at this point, cypherpunk means whatever people want it to mean, as long as it puts them in a good light. From celebrating illicit usage to rebranding a struggling pharmaceutical company to become a digital asset treasury. And, it's like, kind of good point there. I think that cypherpunk as a term died when people kept calling Adam Back a cypherpunk, because Adam Back, or Adam Bank as I like to call him, was certifiably a cypherpunk in the early days, right? With the whole Hashcash stuff, with confidential transactions, with a bunch of other stuff. But now he is the CEO of a bank-like payment processor company, Blockstream, and also the CEO of a shitty MicroStrategy knockoff. And so like there's nothing more like gross and bankstery and anti-cypherpunk than that. But he started putting a backwards baseball cap on, so now he's still cypherpunk. So that's kind of where it lost its meaning. And so I don't know what I think about the Winklevi, but there's a lot I like about him, but then there's also a lot I really don't trust either. Like I don't.
Yeah, I mean, beyond my just reflexive distrust of somebody who appears to be sort of an elitist, they're Harvard educated, finance bro kind of situation or whatever. I'm incredibly grateful for them because they've been huge champions of Zcash, even years before this. They tweeted about it in like 2021. I think it's public information. They're donors to Shielded Labs, and so I think it's very. They've been huge champions for this thing, and they've given me no acute reason to distrust them besides, just like I said, like a reflexive feeling. So they're fine in my book. And again, there's the business model here, which is really interesting, is just buy and hold. I think that's what this treasury thing is. That's part of what makes it a treasury is they publish their entry. They have like 200,000 ZEC, like 1% of the supply. They bought it at 245, and their job now is just to hold on to it and do cypherpunk stuff. So I assume they'll be doing like, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if they had a meetup or something like that, because we live close by. They're based in Cambridge. So like us Bostonian types could go there if they had something, or if they were to fund development or something beyond just the buy and zoddle,
Yeah, I think it's got to be like, so MicroStrategy, from my understanding, was a business software company that did business stuff, and at some point it became just buy Bitcoin and print shitcoins. And at some point earlier in the year, I believe, I think it conflicted with like Consensus or one of these other conferences or something. But a few like Bitcoin Cash friends of mine went down to, they had some Bitcoin conference at Strategy HQ outside of DC. And so they went in and they basically said like that building is empty. Like they like empty desks. Yeah. Like, so basically it used to be like it either used to be a real company and they just hollowed it out now, or they got a nice big building to pretend like they're important, and it's just empty because it's like literally Sailor clicking buy orders and stuff.
I mean, that is the question, is like, what is there to do? But also I think there's a little bit of bias there because I've been in and out of a lot of weird empty office buildings over the last few years, and I think just office buildings in general,
the quote right there,
weird and empty. Yeah.
With a suitcase full of stuff, and a phone app full of Monero, just doing some sketchy stuff.
I trip and a bunch of baked beans fall out of my suitcase.
Baked beans, yeah.
No, but I think just COVID and the remote work movement, and also like the economy is dog shit, and like, and I don't want to get into like specific political things, but like the government just opened back up. So like I think there's a lot of crazy stuff happening right now that would make office buildings pretty empty. And my guess is they just bought whatever company it was and sent like 90% of the people home and said, okay, here's your buy terminal, go.
Yeah, it's a very, like, this is something that's, I'm sure, going to be very fascinating for people to observe in the future, looking back, is the datification of things. And I almost feel like it started with GameStop, where GameStop was, again, I've been to a GameStop, I've bought stuff from there in my youth, and it was kind of like a not struggling company that they just decided to just go degen on the stock with. And then it's like, okay, well then the primary purpose of GameStop is not to sell things out of their store. It's to do this nonsense, the stock nonsense. And so therefore They're like, what if we did this with other failing businesses? What if we just converted them into whatever? And like Sailor already did some shenanigans with MicroStrategy in the past. Obviously, got didn't turn out very well for him. But he's kind of the veteran DAT person. He kind of like he's the DAT father, kind of, as far as he sort of figured out how to strap Bitcoin onto like a failing company thing and use it to like make more money than the company, obviously, and also more money than just being like a Bitcoin reseller or custodian.
Yeah, is it the first Bitcoin treasury? No, I had to cheat and ask the AI.
So
what
the answer is
but, like,
probably no, because I remember in
Yeah.
2017 or 18, I think 2017, there was a company called Neptune. I think today it's called Neptune Digital Assets something or other. But at the time it was called Neptune Dash, and their entire business model was to own Dash masternodes. And so it was literally a company that owned Dash masternodes, which are Dash that generate yield. So Dash plus
Right.
interest, and then have like an actual Toronto Stock Exchange, stock where you could buy into Neptune Dash shares. And the ticker
Got
was
it.
Dash. And that was like 2017. That was a long time ago. So I think they might have been the first to do that. And then the first bear market, they just dumped all their Dash and did all their stuff. And I'm like, all right, dude,
Yeah.
whatever. But so
Yeah.
that might have been the first of those things
Maybe.
to do that.
Well, yeah, because so a trust now. I just had to read this from the AI. A trust is when you want price exposure to an asset, and like the Grayscale Zcash trust is like you want exposure to the price of Zcash as it goes up and down. It doesn't match it exactly, but it sort of follows the curve. And there's like for every one share of ZCSH, there's like 40 Zcash or the other way around or whatever it is. A treasury is a business whose business model it is to buy and hold something. That's what a treasury company is. And you're just buying stock of that. So it's much more decoupled. The price is much more decoupled from at least directly. I would love to see the reverse of a stable coin where you just buy a share of something and somehow it just ends up being exactly what the price of ZEC is that day or something. That'd be kind of interesting, but I think
Yeah.
that would really work in like with two competing free markets going at the same time. There's
The
no
only way you could do that is that would be like an ETF type thing, where you literally are buying a share minus management fees or whatever of that.
Yeah.
And it's like it's pegged 1-to-1 basically with the asset because it is backed actually by the asset. They have all of that.
Yeah,
Like MicroStrategy, like for a while, MicroStrategy stock was worth a lot more as a whole than their Bitcoin holdings. And so now it's probably worth less, I think. Isn't that like the MNAV stuff or whatever? Again, it all gets... The problem is like, I'm always torn with this like basic gossips type stuff of how much time do I want to invest into learning in-depth knowledge on something that's complete bullshit, just to mock it. And how much do I want to just learn about like cryptography and privacy?
Well,
and stuff like
yeah.
that, So
My
for
favorite
me, it's
question,
like,
I always like to ask, like, well, what are we actually talking about here? What are we're talking about Michael Saylor, or what are we talking about? Well, he has a company called Strategy. Well, what is that company? Just a few layers down the onion until I'm like, all right, I'm satisfied. I don't want to spend any more time on this. And now I feel like I sort of understand the trust versus treasury thing. And it seems like, because if you look at like Vanguard mutual funds, there's like a billion of them. There's like the medium growth strategy and the conservative growth strategy and the conservative tech strategy, blah, blah, blah. Like every angle you can split it up on, there's a different type of mutual fund for whatever you're interested in. And then it just ends up being like, I don't know which one to pick. And it seems like he has something like that where it's like the strategy conservative, the strategy, whatever. I don't know what they exactly are, but there's like more than one thing you can do with than just buy MSTR. There's other tickers that have different exposure levels or something. And that's when I get bored. That's when I'm like, I don't care what those are. I don't know what the difference is between all of them. It seems like I'd have to read some prospectuses with a lot of weird percentages of things in them. And that's when my eyes glaze over right there.
Yeah, and that's exactly like all it is debt / equity.
Yeah,
So it's just different ways of doing that. Of like, I want Bitcoin. I don't have money to buy it, so I'm going to get money from someone else to buy it. And what am I giving them? I'm either giving them a promise of paying them back at some point, so they have a risk of like playing the market. It's it's a loan, or I basically dilute the company by offering more of a piece of whatever, more equity in whatever there is. And there's like a bunch of different things. And like, that's kind of like, he just did a euro thing too. If you saw, he just went and like did like a euro denominated thing. So you can like make the euro poors even poorer. So like, it's pretty funny. But so, as this next thing that I chimed in on here, said Bitcoin maximalists hate shitcoins more than fiat itself. But by making the buy more Bitcoin shitcoin, Saylor tricked them into buying a shitcoins. Evil genius, really.
Yeah. It is very diabolical. And it makes it seem like he's on their side, but he's the counter trade. Like that's the thing, is that Saylor is like somehow. My theory is that if you were to unpack and untie all these knots and things like that, you'd come out that he's like short Bitcoin somehow. Or something, like, you know what I mean? Like there's some like a reverse debasement thing going on, or I don't know. It's just doesn't. It's not exactly as it purports to be publicly, I don't think. But I don't know how. It's just a weird paranoid hunch I have.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how he's planning on doing everything, but it does seem like it's just like when you use like logic, you know, if then else, you know, that kind of like basic kind of coding style logic. If you use that, it's pretty easy to see like the only exits to this are somehow he has to sell Bitcoin, or he has to either Bitcoin takes a hit or his shitcoins take a hit. And I have to say, if I were to do the hierarchy of needs, right, the Saylor's hierarchy of like needs, at the top of Saylor's needs is Saylor's own money, whatever that is.
Yeah.
The second one would be probably Bitcoin, and the third would be his various shitcoins. Like, I don't think if he had to pick between which one of those two to sacrifice, and his bottom line would be the same either way, he would dump his random things that he created and he'd keep Bitcoin, because that's got exogenous value outside of other people value it, not just him and his weird little company, you know? So it is funny. Anyway, so like as far as like the scheme of how did it work, of like somehow like Bitcoin is the only coin that they like, everything else is terrible. So therefore you can't scam them by selling them on another thing, until he's like, well, what if this other thing was like, what if this was a way to just be more in on Bitcoin? Like, not all in, but this is all plus 10% in on Bitcoin. Like, what if you can do that? And then their greed tempted them. You know, again, if we were talking about, you know, just be clear, like super engineering minded, like autistic type people, it wouldn't work, because they'd be like, well, I have Bitcoin, and if I have spare money, I will buy more Bitcoin. If I have spare money and I don't buy Bitcoin, I buy something else that's not Bitcoin, therefore that's not as good, therefore I will not do that. You know, like that very like, but no, you have like greedy normie motherfuckers, right? Like, who are like, well,
sickos. You have sickos who come in and
and then they just start like, I'm gonna buy, like, but it'll be Bitcoin eventually, you know. But they don't really care about Bitcoin. They just buy into the narrative that it will be worth more fiat. And so they're like, if Bitcoin is a vehicle to more fiat, then therefore a vehicle to more Bitcoin is a vehicle to even more fiat. Therefore, buy Saylor's stuff. Oops, I got scammed.
Exactly. Because I think you're right. If Saylor cashes out after all is said and done, and he has made more money than he had before he did any of this, then I think Saylor himself would be happy. You know, regardless of the legacy of Bitcoin, so to speak.
Yeah. So this other thing here, like, again, every time I say this, like, to my mind, if you're into Saylor's offerings, you are not a strict Bitcoin cyberpunk type person. You are a degen. Of course, listen, no judgment. You could be like, I'm a Bitcoin maxi. All I own is Bitcoin. That's all I care about. But I have like a little bit of a side hobby. It's like I go to the slot machines and put in a couple $100 and blow it, and I have a good time. And my slot machine is MicroStrategy. I'm going to try. That's fine. Just admit it. But whenever I talk about that, someone comes out all salty, like, "What are you saying, man?" And chief marketing
it's
person.
fine.
Blah,
It's
blah,
just
blah.
to go back to our spectrum,
Yes.
our quadrants today. I think it's the normie thing to do. Buying MSTR is a normie thing to do, and there's no judgment there. You can do that because normies buy stocks, and if you're interested in Bitcoin, it's a perfectly logical thing. It might not be the right move. It might be something you and I disagree with, but it's a totally logical thing to be like, oh, I should pick up some MSTR. No problem there. You should beware what you're buying and learn about what you're buying and see all these different so-called shitcoins that are being produced by this company. And maybe, for example, I think we'd be, again, remiss to not mention that I think the Winklevosses have a Bitcoin ETF or something like that, right? So maybe you should do that. I'm not shilling their things. I don't own any stocks. I don't like the dollar. I'm one of those people. I don't like it. I use it as sparingly as possible, and I hold it for as little time as possible. I like other things.
Yes, it's a sensible thing.
Yeah. So why would I have a stock?
Yeah.
I like things like I like the reverse. I like Paxos Gold is cool because I can buy a token of that. And then there's some place in London that I can theoretically go to and be like, here's my phone, scan this QR code, and now give me my ounce of gold or whatever it is that, I like things like that. Nate at Shielded Labs told me about uranium trust or something like that in Canada, where you can buy tokens that represent like actual physical store of uranium. And if you are a licensed uranium person, I don't even know how you would obtain such a license. You have to be some sort of nuclear scientist or something. You could go up to Canada and get your uranium, I guess. But things like that interest me. In it's a cliche. It's all the same things of like, I like scarce supply. I like in that regard, I like Bitcoin. Obviously, I like Zcash better, but it's still the same 21 million cap. There's a lot of coins like that. That's where I sort of begin to get interested in any sort of investing or speculation.
Like long-term stuff. But the other thing, like, I don't even judge the thing about like gambling, right? First off, I don't gamble because I'm just not good at it and I'm not interested in it. But also, it's funny because hanging out with some of the Thorchain and Maya developers and stuff in Vegas, they are actually very good at gambling. I've seen them like play craps. I'm like, ooh, these guys are good. Like, which they, it's still gambling. It's still like a hobby you do for fun and you don't expect to win. But the point is, like, I think there is a time and place for doing weird leverage plays and stuff and high risk assets. I'm not interested, so therefore I'm not good enough to do it. But I think that's fine with like a stop loss, or like basically as a if you keep it disciplined, you're like, I'm only 5% of my savings. Like, my savings after bills goes into something very boring, and then 5% I use my fun money. I go do these things and do the leverage, and then whenever I make a bunch of money on that, I'm going to put half of that into the savings, and the other half I keep in the casino, and I do this other high yield, liquid restaked, whatever it is.
Right.
And then it's oh, then that blew up. All right, oh well. But like, discipline in it. The problem is the greed. Like, the greed.
Gambling is not a financial activity, right? Gambling is an emotional game sort of thing where you're chasing after either the feeling of losing, which I think a lot of gambling addicts are actually addicted to, the loss and the feeling of like, or the exhilaration of hitting it big or something like that. I don't think it has financial consequences, but it's not itself a financial activity. And I think that's an important thing. There's also now all these prediction markets, which I'm going to, on Signal, my new favorite schizo poster on crypto Twitter is this person, Quasi Matt, which I don't know if you have a history with them or not, but
no, I've never seen his.
Lord. Okay, so we need to talk about Quasi Matt. Shout out Quasi Matt. he had some very, very interesting ideas about privacy, which we can get into. But this one in particular, if you pull this up, prediction markets replace health insurance. So he's saying prediction markets will replace health insurance. You bet that you do have cancer and you pay $500, and the company on the other side, the health provider, bets against you and says that you don't have cancer. And if the odds are 0.1%, then if you do have cancer, you make $500,000 to cover your medical expenses. But if you don't have cancer, then they make $500 on the counter trade, and that's the whole thing. And I was like, that is a hell of a take right there.
That's a diabolical way of describing life insurance, though.
That's literally what that is. Yeah, exactly. It's just this. It's like the proof of stake version of proof of work in terms of all this bureaucracy and things like that.
It's like
cut down to the core of what we're actually talking about here, and let's do that.
Well, that's really like, if you have a life insurance policy, you have a small but insanely leveraged short on your own life. Like, you're just like super leveraged short on your own life, and so then you're just paying to lose, be wrong all the time. But then at some point, you might be right, and then boom, you're dead, and then you get all this money for your family. That's literally what it is. The life insurance companies are long on your life. They have a long position. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, just turn it into a poly market thing, and just call it what it is. So I replied. I said, I think you're kind of cooking here.
Mm-hmm.
I think his Twitter account is just like complete schizo takes all day and see which ones stick or whatever.
That's a smart schizo take.
Yeah. The other one was wanting privacy is the same as believing in thought crimes, because you don't care about the information leakage. You care about the consequences of the information leakage.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, so we got to do it there, and that's a whole other thread. Maybe people can search that on their own.
And that was an interesting rabbit hole. I mean, on the surface, it's not quite the same, but it is true about the consequences, right? And I think that the thing is, lack of privacy, right, is like lack of legal rights or lack of whatever. It's like it's an open-ended risk, where it's just like, if the more privacy leakage you have, the more your risk is. Risk doesn't mean, it's just like, it's like driving drunk almost. Like, you're driving drunk and you're like, mostly just make it home, but your risk of not making it home and someone else becoming a speed bump, like, that goes way up. And it's like, it's fine. See, I'm not hitting anyone. And then boom, you do hit someone, like, oh no, now it's terrible.
Yeah, until it's realized. Schrodinger's drunk driving accident gets realized. Yeah, the best advice I heard was on an Indian reservation about driving and the law. And
listen, this is such a perfect setup contextually, but go on.
Okay.
Like, you went to the real subject matter experts for this take, right?
For driving, yeah. But the advice is, only do one illegal thing at a time if you're driving a car. So if you're gonna be drunk, make sure your headlights are functional. Or if you're gonna smoke weed while you're driving, make sure that you don't have a taillight out, or that your registration isn't expired or something like that. Which I thought, that's wonderful.
And that's like a basic like risk mitigation thing.
Don't speed.
Which is kind of like why I'm so boring in so many things. Like, I mostly just have scarce decentralized cryptos in my own full custody. That's just like pretty much all I do.
Yeah. And
it's because not having a bank account or fiat, or having these, not even like Bitcoin, which is like the least volatile, I'm not sure if it is, but it's one of the lesser volatility ones. Like, that's already super risky. So like, I'm already living in this weird max risk lifestyle. So then everything else is just no risk. Like, everything else is like no debt, no this, no that. Cause I just want it to be, cause everything else is just wild. And so, the degens that are kind of crazy, they're in a different level. But let me hit on this point here to get through. Says, I say, every time I post something about Sailor and strategy, salty Bitcoiners show up all triggered. Why? Dude, this guy's using leverage, promising yield, and printing shitcoins. all the stuff you guys are supposed to hate. That's not Bitcoin at all. And so that's just
No.
the thing about it's telling what triggers them, what triggers some people. It's just like, well, this shouldn't do. And then the last post on that, I did a basic grok query, and of course, fact check this, but basically just said, what is Sailor's average purchase price for Bitcoin? And what are his unrealized capital gains from that? And what are Strategy's total operating expenses since he started buying Bitcoin? And the basic reasoning for that question is Strategy does nothing kind of as far as like revenue. I mean, I think it does still have revenue actually. They do have products and stuff, but it's very little. Their expenses far outweigh that as far as I've been able to tell. So basically by running this company as opposed to just owning Bitcoin directly, you're incurring lots of costs. And so basically I bought at this price, it's worth this. That's your profit versus your expenses. So it's a very simple equation. So I said some simple math to keep up with. And so I posted the screenshot of the query of the response. Said Strategy's average Bitcoin purchase price is 74,000. Its approximate unrealized gain from its purchase is 14.7 billion based on the current price of 97,000. I think it's lower now, or it's like 95. I didn't check the price in the last couple hours. But so basically, it's like, let's say 14.7 billion. Since it began purchasing it, it has incurred approximately 2.6 billion in total operating expenses. So you made 12.7 billion, but then you spent 2.6 billion, and you didn't make it because if you cash out, now you have like capital gains and stuff, right? But the point is, it's like that's the margin, and as the average purchase price goes down or it goes up compared to the gap between the average purchase price and the, it as it starts to go down here, then eventually you start running out of potential profit. And at some point you become underwater where, let's just say, the total amount you've spent running this company will be very close to the total amount that you stand to gain from your Bitcoin purchases. And then you start being underwater, and then the whole thing goes kaboom. So that's what I would ask people. I would ask people just repeat that query in like ChatGPT or Grok or whatever. Just check in. Check in, see how he's doing, right?
It's easy enough to just have buy and sell orders in at different price bands around your current acquisition height or whatever, your purchase height. But I don't know. I don't manage a treasury. I don't know what is really involved. My instinct now as a middle-aged person is that everything is way more complicated than I think it is. When I'm like, how hard could it be? And then you find out, oh no, it's extremely hard for many different reasons. So that's a very naive take on my part. But it seems like watching the price of one asset go up and down, you might be able to, survive if you kind of figure out what you're going to do at each price point.
And like, I'm not a very smart person, and this is why I like cash flow being over expenses. And I've never been a very rich person, so I've always tried to keep my expenses super low, where I can be like, all right, I'm always paying the bills, and then anything else on top of that is something. And
you have some runway and some holdings and stuff, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's like,
And it's funny, it did work out because like the first year I just closed my bank and was only living on Bitcoin, only earning Bitcoin. Because of the opportunities available, I made like a grand total of like 15 grand that year. And so, I mean, that's not very much for, I think I was late 20s at the point or whatever. That's not a lot of money, but I kept my expenses so dirt low that I could hack it.
Yeah.
So I could just live all off of crypto in like 2015, 2016, because I, and so I'm the complete opposite of like risk and leverage with like the actual numbers because,
No, and I tweeted this out too. I don't think people should be doing that with leverage. You know what I mean? I'm definitely one of those people person that like
yes.
I just made a tweet that was like just straight up like don't do it. Don't trade with leverage. Like the cards are stacked against you. The exchanges want you to lose because that's how they make their fees, and they don't get all your money when you get liquidated, but they get a nice chunk of it. So like whatever.
It's funny. I know a disproportionately high number of current or retired professional poker players. And like, listen, that's just what they do for a living. And first off, there's a lot of like, you know, libertarian on the spectrum type stuff, as well as like software engineer kind of minds where they're just like, well, the risk according to this, and then, you know, there's a lot of that. Those, it's not the degen people, but one friend, such friend, he always just says he never plays against the house. It's only like tournaments where it's against other, it's peer to peer. He only plays like against other people because the house always wins. And I'm like, that's just a super sensible, basic thing. Like, sure, you won't necessarily always win, but like you're kind of, it's democratic. It's not like you play against the house, whereas you're always going to lose on the long run. That's
There are cameras everywhere looking at everybody's hands, and the little card machine has logic in it that says, you know, like, who knows? Who knows what's going on there? And we'll never find out. This casinos will never tell us.
Yes. Well, let's hit this Sailor post because that cracked me up, because there is some dude who just makes AI slop for him every day, and it's always some, like, to be fair to him, maybe he's not saying that's a banger, I'm going to post. Like, someone is doing this. It's not him posting making his own, like, let's put me with like an unbuttoned shirt and like nice, sexy middle-aged chest hair. Like, he's not saying that I know of.
They're doing,
yeah. So anyway, he says hodl, and it just shows him on a stormy sea. But the thing is, you see him on this stormy lifeboat, and there's a burning like Titanic behind him, which is like, that's an interesting.
Like, what are you trying to say? I saw some comments that were like, I don't think this communicates what you think it communicates.
Yes, and good old crypto Bitlord. I don't know if you remember Bitlord, that crazy mofo who's not a Zcash fan, as it turns out. But anyway, he said this MF abandoned ship. It's true. He just
I think
totally
trying to communicate was like, come with me, I'm safety, I will rescue you. But it just looks like he's just like, oh, fuck this, I'm out of here.
Yeah, he's even that look on the face and everything is like everything. And the sinking ship thing. And then again, good old this will be your end. Paul posted, instead of hodl, he posted Zodal, which has like a sailor type person on like a Zcash yacht, and it's like all calm sailing, nice sunset or whatever. It's just, you know, it's like, listen, when you queue up the memes, like, he brought this on himself, right? And it was a day when everyone was paying attention to that. So it's funny how that kind of stuff works. But it seems like the good stuff has been doing well today, right? You've had
I think so. I think if you went to CoinMarketCap and went to the little privacy page or whatever, I think it looks good, because that's, I mean, let's just talk about that for a second. I think that's a weird like elephant in the room that, no, I guess people have called it out, that when the market dumps like this, most of the privacy projects are staying steady or rising, which suggests that money's rotating into them, but you're never really sure. But like, you know, you see the near intense swaps happening, and you see some data on people flipping their ETH to Zach, or their Bitcoin to Zach, or whatever. So, I mean, that's something. And with the regulations, you know, the EU is being its normal overreaching self. And I saw a post today on the Zcash forums that said the exchanges in Europe now are marking shielding transactions on Zcash as like illicit mixnet type activity, and sending warning emails out like, hey, don't do that. So they can detect if you withdraw to a transparent address and then shield it, they're like, bad, EU says bad. So that's not good, you know. And I don't think the EU needs, as Andrew Tate pointed out this morning
in his infinite wisdom,
that the EU is broke, which spot the lie also.
Yeah, it is true. And like, I think it was, do you know who TCB is? I don't know if you've seen that guy on XUp. He used to be called Thorchain Bull. That's kind of where it comes from, but now he's just other stuff. But he's like a big whale dude. And he took to calling them the Europoors, and since then that's all I call them, and I don't care. I love, like, some of my favorite people are Europoors, so it's such a funny term. It's just like, why do you, like, because as a, like, I hate all governments, right? They all suck,
sure,
but
right.
the European ones in particular are sitting on like a lot of like wealth and prosperity that they insist on like getting rid of. So that's why like, I'm like, why do you do so many poverty forward things? It's like you can't pick on a developing country for that, but it's like this is wealthy developed places that you're just like now trying to become more poor. It's just like it makes no sense.
And they have those like dukes and duchesses and royal people in Europe that have. I mean, if you think you look at like one person like Elon Musk's wealth or whatever, like if you think that's wealth, you should see a royal family or something like that. Like, so I wonder if he's trying to get their claws into that somehow or whatever. But it's all these encryption things, this chat control. So, you'll see people just be like, "Oh, Zcash's marketing team," and it'll be like the EU Commission or something like that. So I think people are starting to see them as a bit more of a safe harbor, and not even for illicit activity necessarily, just because we see these governments moving in with surveillance and things like that.
Well, you know me, I'm a pluralist, right? I think anything good is anything good. Obviously, I have my favorites, but the whole sovereignty sector, and I have to say it's been mostly privacy, but not exclusively. Like Nano, for example, did really well, and Nano has like no privacy, not at all.
Why does it? What makes it a sovereignty project?
Well, because it has a zero inflation, zero fees. That's a different rabbit hole entirely. But basically, the entire coin supply was created in the beginning. And I think there was a technical limitation that made that necessary. And then they distributed most of the supply via like CAPTCHA or whatever. Like people did little CAPTCHA stuff as a faucet. And now it's just like out. There's just no more printing, 0% emissions, and so. But it's like a decentralized community run project that actually has really fast transaction finality and like pretty high security and just works, and like it's super bare bones, but it like works. And so that one's doing well. What is the consensus mechanism? It's a block DAG. It used to be called RAI blocks, and it's a block DAG that uses something called open representative voting, which is sort of like a delegated proof of stake. Meaning the highest stake delegated to nodes are in the running to just run stuff, and they don't get paid anything, but they just do it and it works. And they have some weird anti-spam methods that tend to work so far. And like anyway, but it's a solid project is my point. It's not like a weird scammy thingy. And Digibyte is another one. It was like early 2014 project. Proof of work with a bunch of different things. Again, not really privacy, but doing well. So it's like a lot of these OG projects. But one thing I think has been funny is as far as like narrative and branding, the Monero community, which again, another solid hardcore project that's actually being used a lot. The Monero community has branded that as sort of the single poster child of like the value of like that old cypherpunk value, meaning like privacy equals Monero, nothing else kind of thing. Right. Sovereignty equals Monero, nothing else. Everything else is a shitcoin. And so, or everything else is like corporate, whatever the hell. And it has been funny to see, I like the socialization of things, right? It's been funny to see because I know a lot of Monero people these days, and a lot of them that I've had good relationships with, and then there's the dum-dums on Axe who say stupid shit. So anyway, I'm posting. So the one big thing is like the KOL thing, like there's all these Zcash is like influencer peddled and all this other shit and blah blah blah, and righteous coins wouldn't be. So before I hit on the next point, any take on that about like KOLs and stuff?
No, not directly. I mean, I'm not a KOL in the sense that I get paid per tweet or anything like that. I benefit from the price action of Zcash because I hold some, and I like talking about it in a positive light. But I find that every the cliche of every accusation is a confession holds pretty strongly with the Monero community. I think I see
Yeah,
a
with
lot of
the aggro
the
people
stuff.
there.
Yeah. And not even talking about like the sort of edgelord stuff, just some of the actual things that people say about Zcash hold true for Monero. And that's
Yes.
all I really want to get into it.
And
Yeah. It's not my thing to like search out other coin projects and shit on their posts. Like the Monero scene people seem to like to.
like
It's
some
like
of them do.
they'll search out. Well, here's the thing: is that the whole
Yes.
thing with Dyra Emma Hopwood happened last week,
That was
and
that was only last week, man. Like, listen,
I
this
know
has been.
it's been crazy.
Is it just
Every
me, or the last 6 weeks that particularly feel like some kind of like a cocaine bender? Like we're just like, oh, what happened? Like, oh
the
my gosh,
arc
what happened to my
from-
arm? I got a tattoo. Like, you know.
the arc from like, let's all gawk at this person and shit on them to, but what if Dyra is Satoshi?
That
Was
funny.
awesome.
Yes.
So that whole arc was crazy. But the point I'm trying to make is like, shit, I lost it. But just the name searching of Zcash and then going like, oh, but it's not private by default. Like just copy paste whatever talking point you want to do, paste in there. I'm sure some of them are actual AIs that just go out and like Zcash posts to do stuff. And I see some Zcashers doing it. I'm not going to say that nobody does that to the other coins because I see some people do it, but I think it's almost a cultural thing for the Monero community to be super aggro on Twitter about stuff, and it seems to come from the top down. It seems like that, like Fluffy Pony's whole thing was that on Twitter, so everybody just kind of adopted that mentality. I don't know.
That's
I around for like the genesis of it all. So,
like, I try to be as fair as I can, right? Sometimes I get a little like, sorry.
Sorry. I just remembered my point. Is that the Monero devs came out, the contributing members of the Monero community came out and said, like, of course we respect Dyra Emma's work. We don't stand behind a lot of the hate that we're seeing because, like, on Dyra's merits, it's clear that this is a really important person to photography and the community and the industry in general. So, like, no, we're not going to participate in this. And I thought that was really cool. So, like, it's important to know that the contributing members are not the community with regards to their online behavior, it seems.
Yeah, and there is this because we'll get to the ossification thing in just a second because it's like Zcash's version of the Monero trolls kind of thing, right? But like I feel like builders are the good people. And developers are kind of the most obvious builder type because they literally build the code. But other people like Doug Tooman, I've argued with him and disagreed and stuff, whatever, it doesn't matter. But he runs Monerotopia, the podcast as well as the event, and he's actually like trying to get stuff done. And like, I don't know, I've been helping him out with stuff, and he's a decent guy, right? And there's like other people are decent people. You kind of find the same thing everywhere in crypto. Anyone who's actually building stuff tends to be a cool person. And then it's just the people who aren't are just like enraged baboons. They're just not like the same.
Yeah, and they tend to have the strongest opinions, it turns out. The people who just have a financial stake in it, and that's their only involvement. Is they're just maybe just holders of the token, seem to have much stronger and much less nuanced opinions than, for example, a dev. A dev would look at a problem and be like, oh yeah, you can kind of, but maybe and see sort of all the different intricate parts of it. And then you get the other, the people who were just, you end up with the ossifiers, basically. You end up with people saying, well, the number's going up, everything's fine, don't touch it. I don't know why it's working, but don't touch it. And if
it's ridiculous.
Because if something changes, people are going to get spooked like me because I don't understand what this change is, or It's not fair to say I don't understand, but I don't know the full implications of what even proposing that change might lead to or something. It's
Yeah.
a lot of lack of faith in other humans en masse, I think, is just think that if you were to implement some sort of protocol change in a popular project, it's going to spook a million people and they're all going to get scared and sell and run off. As if those people don't have the same financial stake that you do and would tend to hold on for longer than you think they would. That's my instinct.
Yeah, I mean, it does tend to be clear, right? We do like no one wants to know like, and this is it's kind of like Bitcoin Classic. Like this is or not. I'm not Bitcoin Classic was a Bitcoin implementation. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about it's like the classic Bitcoin thing where it's like the self-fulfilling like sort of like something people observe an occurrence and then they try to work backwards from that as opposed to work forward to how you got to that spot. It's just like, okay, I'm here, like I am wealthy, therefore all these decisions and trappings that I have right now are what lead to wealth, right? And that's the wrong way of working. You're just like, I'm wealthy.
Yeah.
How did I get wealthy? What logical path got me to here instead of here? And then you work backwards to explain it.
Tell. Yeah, that's a huge tell because I think a lot of people don't know why Bitcoin is successful.
Yeah.
They don't understand why it's popular, and I think more people don't understand than maybe do. And I'm saying that as a person who I wouldn't be able to confidently tell you why Bitcoin was such a huge success. There's a first mover thing. There's a proper, like, well-structured first principles argument, and that it's a sovereign thing. It's borderless. It's decentralized. Blah blah. It has all that components to it, which is really good. But why is it worth what it's worth? It's sort of like tea leaves, and that's what I think makes people anxious, especially when they get confident about I know why, and therefore that's the thing that can't change. So yeah,
like some people say stuff like I'm going to leave any political examples out of this because they're not very good anyway, but like people thought they understood how Bitcoin worked, and then it happened, some things happened, and then Bitcoin was still valuable, and then they started to be like, oh yeah, all these narratives are true because like, oh, it's store of value and ossify and this and that, and there's all these like ideas that like people just like it just sounds like it makes sense in the present day, but then as soon as the price starts to change, it's just like who's ever had an argument with, say, like a significant other or like stress at work or something like that, and they're just like, oh man, why is she so ungrateful? I don't like her, this kind of stuff. And,
sure.
I kind of got all carried away when we with this and that, and like, it'd be better. What if I was just still single? You start like tell yourself stupid shit, and then same thing as when your job, you have a bad day at work. You was like, I work so hard, and no one appreciates.
Oh yeah, you go and
angrily
look at jobs or angrily apply to other jobs.
Yeah, and you start looking at other things and being like, what's and then you start like clicking your crypto portfolio. Can I retire on this? And like, no. But like you start doing dumb things like that, and then all of a sudden like something does better. Like, guess what? Like your boss calls you, he's like, hey, you got a promotion. You're like, all of a sudden you love it again. It's just like it's the same. Or like, you make up with your significant other, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, it's great, everything. Never mind all that dumb stuff I was thinking before. It's the same thing where Bitcoin is like the one and true store of value because all this other crap that I would argue doesn't make it very useful. I'm like, no, but the not being useful is what makes it more useful. It's hard to spend. That's why the price goes up, because it's hard to spend and use. So therefore,
it sounds a lot like, oh, we're not listed on any exchanges. That makes us the true thing because it's a good thing. Why nobody supports it.
Although, listen, I will differentiate on that argument part though. That path of argumentation you find does not seem to be like misunderstanding of value and just like explaining with bullshit.
That's
It
true.
does that does seem to be intentional gotcha argumentation to try to promote something in a single direction. Is that it's more
Right.
bad faith argumentation than it is delusion. So I don't know, pick your which is better, which is worse, but like it's like so speaking of which, let's get to let's
So well, before we get to Zcash, let's just
well, let me hit on this. It's not Zcash yet. It's
Okay.
there's influencers. And have you noticed which KOLs have said nothing good about that have been saying sovereignty, privacy stuff for a while, said nothing about Zcash or privacy coins in general, and have only been shilling Monero this last couple weeks and stuff. I've seen a couple. I'm going to put one on the screen. Crypto T _ Crypto T. I don't know if you've seen that lady.
how many
But she's like-
followers does this person have? Oh, I saw. Yeah.
Because I was saying a bunch of weird, salty stuff about this person, 189,000, right? And so
Okay.
this was the first of three posts in a day. She says, she posts the price charts and everything, says, Monero feels like the only real crypto. People using it as currency, real privacy. Again, trying to shade at Zcash. No spam exploits, no institutions to create paper Monero. So all this stuff, and shows the price chart of like everything down, Bitcoin down, ETH down, BNB down, whatever. Monero up. Now, if you're going to be good faith in posting on this day, on the Lord's Day, on Zcash Pump Day, and then that was at 9:43 a.m. And then at 1:07 p.m., privacy cannot be optional. It must be default or it dies. And then it's like, okay, I wonder what coin you're trying to talk to about there. And then the final one, 1:20 p.m., just a few minutes later, demand for privacy will grow as the world gets more dystopian. And people who need privacy will find a way to acquire it. You don't need Monero until you suddenly do. And so, like, I mean, these are like basic, like, pumpy posts and stuff. Nothing wrong with that. 3 in the same day, all mentioning Monero on a day when it's one of the less pumpy privacy coins. Listen, and not even the top ranked one in CoinMarketCap. Listen, I know a paid shill when I see one. That's all I'm
Let me
saying.
just address the factual concerns here.
Yes.
All of the notes that are mined, all of the coins that are mined in Zcash go directly into the Orchard Shielded pool in the Coinbase transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And all the modern wallets favor U addresses or Z addresses. And in fact, Zashi, the most popular one, will yell at you if you have any transparent funds in your wallet and tell you to shield. I don't know. Yeah, bad transparent Zcash. So I don't know how much more like by default you want. I think what they mean is the transparent pool exists. That's what they mean when they say it's not transparent by default, which means it's optional transparency and not transparent by default. It is private by. So just my own
to be even more fair.
You get that? Yeah.
To be even more fair, it means it's not Monero.
Well, of course,
That's the
point
behind
what
it.
you're saying is that, yeah. This person is obviously, and you can see them moving the app. What is that little thing? The abacus. You can see them kind of sliding the tiles around, being like, "Well, I can't say anything good about Zcash, and I have to say something good about Monero. I'm incentivized to say good things about Monero, and I don't want to praise Zcash, but I want to mention Zcash in my post because I'm engagement farming. So let's go with this." And then you see what you saw. And then the first one worked, so it's like, well, Twitter likes it when you tweet a lot, so I'm going to do 3 more. And we're all playing the game. Let's not delude ourselves into saying that we're not playing the engagement farming game on X, because that's part of the deal. But yeah,
yes.
So do you, as an unbanked person who probably is eligible for monetization, do you decline X monetization because they pay you with dollars, or do you immediately swap those to something else?
I get them auto paid out via Spritz. Spritz Finance they have a bank account with my name on it that as soon as any direct deposit hits that, I just get paid out in crypto.
Okay, cool. So you have some sort of pass-through thing.
Yes, and like honestly, I don't need it, but there was like a part of like, like for example, I have a Coinbase card that I use occasionally, and I did not have anything like that for like 9 years straight, right? And so I mostly got it as a way of like testing it out for other people who aren't as hardcore to try to like get them to live on crypto. Be like,
Sure.
well, this is a great backup in case all the other weird sketchy things I'm trying to get you to do don't work. And so like your phone dies or you get physical something or other, you know. And so it's one of those types of things where I'm like, I want to figure out if I can get paid from X with crypto, so then I can tell other people how to do it. And funny enough,
That's cool.
using that same on ramp through Spritz, Wednesday night I got some guy who I know to just start taking his entire salary in crypto now. So yeah,
That's
one at a
awesome.
time. One at a time, you get these people.
Yeah, do you have like a debanking guide or something like that? 'Cause I'm
I
curious. I'm in the phase of debanking. I think there's stages, and I'm in the
Yes.
stage where I find the dollar to be very icky, and I'm in the pre-debanking stage here.
It is funny, like that is the place that everyone should be in. No one should not find it icky. Let me find the article. I'm gonna have to do a new. I'm working on a new video, and there's another one, but there is this article. I'm gonna put it up on the screen, but also in the comments here, that I wrote for Vlad Kostia's magazine, but I also republished it here, called "How to Privately Live on Crypto," and it kind of has a little bit more of a privacy bent, that which for you should not be an issue, right? But it's more of a, but it does still talk about the basic trade-offs and everything, and how you do this and how you do that. And
Cool.
this is also before the Zashi CrossPay era and stuff. So like now, you know, again, everything is very dynamic, like as far as like what you can and can't use, but like
Yes.
you should be able to. So like for example, I could pay for everything with Dash. Basically, there's almost nothing I used something else for, which is great. But like as soon as you get some sort of a Dex option like that, with Zcash, for example, because like you have like instant finality on Dash, right? And if you get some kind of a Dex option through CrossPay with Zcash, if you just do Zcash to Dash on anything that doesn't take it directly, then the entire transaction flow will be about as fast as if you just had native Zcash and that's it. Because it's just like, you know, if you send, I guess, like some Zcash to swap, it takes like a minute and a quarter for a block or whatever, and then the Bitcoin confirmation takes like 10 minutes after that. But if you do a minute and a quarter plus 2 seconds, that's basically a minute and a quarter, right? Anyway, it's a good like template where you can be like, oh yeah, that's different, I can change that, or like, yeah,
Got it.
that wasn't. I'm gonna do a more modern version and actually like explore it. That's the thing, is like I sometimes really wish I could. I don't really wish, but sometimes sort of wish that I could do the KOL thing full time instead of like have like the real job that makes a difference, because I do want to do stuff like film some cool content of living all on X, Y, Z, especially Z crypto during a day. Just like,
Yeah.
this is all I got.
Possible.
I'm just going to load up one wallet with this. I'm just going to go out and do a good faith effort to spend it and see where I go, see what things I have to do. What are my constraints? What do I have to swap into? What do I have to do this? When I buy at the grocery store, I buy this. How long do I have to wait? And before it works, we have to like swap to this gift card first. Can I get a gift card in the exact balance I want? Or do I have to do it? Like, you know, all those kinds of things. But again, that's like a lot of work. And like, if I'm already working 60, 70 hours for, you know, the day job, it's like hard to fit in that. But at some point, for sure.
Well, I'm sad because my Zashi swap was refunded. Sadly, there was not enough liquidity between Zach and USDC on base for the transaction that I wanted to do. So, wow.
Which that reminds me, and before I get into the KOL and then the fucking ossification stuff, I did interview Familiar Cow of Thorchain.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put that interview out in like next week, I think. And he did go into the breakdown of the Dex models, right? Where there's a bunch of different Dex stuff, and it's one of those natural like limitations of intense based Dexes is like the amount flexibility for small liquidity pools isn't quite always there. So like Zcash, I'm sure has a big pool in a big, the solver for Zcash on near intense is probably a lot of money. That's fine. But then as far as like other things, like again, the USDC on base pool is probably like, $20 in there or whatever. Or
Yeah. I'm tempted to, but this made me think today of, well, I'm a programmer. I'm an IT person. I could run my own solver since this is a permissionless thing you can do on Near. And I could basically fund my own swaps somehow, and then I get my own transaction fees back. And yay, it's almost like a free. I just run this thing, but then it's like it's kind of cool because then you think, well, how do I make sure that my solver is the one doing those trades? And the answer is make the best solver, because it becomes
money.
this true.
That's your answer, lose money.
Right. Yeah, make sure your solver is co-located near wherever the user is or the event stream is, or whatever thing. There's a lot of things you could optimize, but it would be costly. But it's something I'm looking at. That's the other thing. So you have all these fixed supply coins, which I like to, for lack of a better term, invest in. I like to hold those and benefit from price action, and scarce assets like that. But then there's all these ones like Starknet and Near, who have a much bigger supply, and the supply is a little bit more fluid than I would like. I don't think it's like mass inflation all the time, like some proof of stake are or whatever. But like Stark has 100 billion tokens or something like that. So what I like to do is try to earn those with like liquidity providing or running a Near solver or something like that, like earn transaction fees in that denomination and then swap that to something that's more of a store of value. That I think that's a cool play that people don't do a lot of, is like just thinking about providing a service, kind of like I like liquidity providing because you're sort of providing a service to people. You're making a market so that people can do their swaps. And then you get all the degenerates coming and saying, oh, I want to buy, fart coin or whatever. And you're like, I have some fart coin and I have some Ethereum. Look at that. Why don't we work something out? And then I get my little fee and everybody moves on. So that kind of stuff is interesting to me. Which may be happening on Zcash soon, because I saw this morning that somebody started doing inscriptions in the transparent pool.
Yeah, let's get to the ossification.
Okay. Let's
I
talk about
only have queued up. I only have that one post that you have on that where it says, sharing controversial opinion on here is a great way to step on a rake and smack yourself in the face. Oh yeah, and Zcash should not ossify. And then this harsh badge pal, whatever this person is, says, agreed, ossification is anti-technology. All right, you've thrown your hat in the ring. Discuss.
Okay. So I think we're seeing some conservatism in terms of the protocol because of the recent price action. There are a group of people who have very good reason to believe that Zcash's product market fit is this sort of, world-class store of value, which I happen to agree with wholeheartedly. I made another tweet that was like, imagine you have a vault of gold bars that's protected by world-class security, and you have a card. And anytime you swipe that card anywhere in the world, you can pay anywhere with it, somebody goes in and chips off a little piece of that gold and takes it away. And you can add gold to it or whatever, and nobody will ever know where that vault is. Nobody will ever steal it from you, whatever. That's sort of the value prop that we're looking at with Zcash. It's very good, hard money. But even as it stands right now, without any protocol changes, people can do crazy shit like Zerdinals and do inscriptions and start making ZRC20 coins. And it's a permissionless system and nobody can stop them from doing that. And in fact, it would be very remiss to try to, as some of our friends in the Bitcoin community are trying to do, restrict action and censor action in the thing, in the protocols. Yeah. So Nate, Zuko's brother Nate, has a good philosophy on this, which is if the protocol, or if people can do it, if there's a workaround or a hack that allows people to do something, then the protocol should probably support it. So that argument leads to something like, well, we should have if people are going to do inscriptions, we should probably have a sanctioned way for them to do it. And then we can talk about things like optimizing it and making it more performant and making it more private and less harmful and things like that, instead of just letting people just go off and do things, which they can now. I made a post that was similar about, because of my art background and because of the side hustle I have here at the gallery, is real world assets. And I think Zcash is this really cool thing of selective disclosure when it comes to that.
I'm going to put that up on the screen here, by the way. I said, there's this thread here. We said coming out of the closet is bullish on Zcash for RWAs. I'm almost certain that no protocol upgrades required. More on this at some point. And then it says, nope, I'm pretty sure anyone could launch an MVP today with only a few band-aids and workarounds. Somebody like me, but with more spare time. To which there was a quote post from this Tom Howard fellow. Hi, Tom. He says, looks like you may have to write something. Otherwise, we only need to crush these proposals from Zcash. Crush.
Yeah. And
that's that's Paul Brigner language right there. I will give you your end. Like
this, RWs will be the end of me. We crush these things. It's not even a proposal. It's just something like,
Paul, if you watch any of this stuff, I'm sorry for teasing you, but I also have no alternative. I have to. It was a great, legendary post. And I'm sad you deleted it. And I still have the meme, and I will deploy it again in the future.
And he was totally right. Now, Alex Gladstein is a total Bitcoin shill, and the Human Rights Foundation is completely indoctrinated by Bitcoin.
Yeah, you know how I know that, of course.
Yeah.
And I might have said that, but like I've been looking at lots of grants, just like the Power Up Privacy one that we got for the Dash privacy overhaul. Been looking at others, and Human Rights Foundation has a ton of crypto development grants, including for privacy tech and stuff. But it's all maxi bullshit. It's only Bitcoin stuff. So like, what a sadness. Like, build freedom tech, not just bag tech. You know.
They started accepting. So by my estimation and my research, I'm actually writing an article about this and things adjacent to it for the privacy magazine, for Vlad's privacy magazine.
Oh, nice.
And they started accepting Bitcoin donations in 2014. And 4 years later, they started publishing posts about like why Bitcoin is the future and why Bitcoin is the most thing for the sovereign coin and blah, blah, blah. So like, it's not a smoking gun, but it's not a good look on their part to be like so maxi about one specific currency. Like, just write about how you can use cryptocurrency and how you can be safe, and write about harm reduction and things like that, rather than, I don't know. But anyway, so RWAs are interesting to me personally. And I think you'd be able to do something with viewing keys and secret key management in a way that you could run an art estate and have like an estate signature signing things and verifying things. And it's just one more piece of provenance, like one more stamp you can put on the paper. It's not the only stamp and it's not the only thing, but I think you would be able to do that. And Zcash's selective disclosure feature in particular is very interesting to me in that regard, which is all stuff that's out there today that you can do. And if I wanted to, I could mint everything as an order, as a Zerdinal now, apparently.
Yeah. A shitcoin.
Shitcoin, or yeah. I mean, that's not my cup of tea, I got to tell you. But I, after that comment from Tom, and then after, I went to bed being like, wow, I can't even suggest somebody do something besides the narrative with the technology that exists now. Like, I'm not even proposing a protocol upgrade or anything like that. This isn't cross-link. This isn't talking about moving to a hybrid consensus algorithm, which is a huge change that would take years of consensus building, years of like review and security audits and formal modeling and simulation and all these different things before anybody even dreams of scheduling it in a network upgrade. And even when that happens, it's 16 weeks of testing on testnet and other things before it even touches a miner's node or an exchange or a mainnet at all. Like, this is just like, hey, here's a cool thing you can do with Zcash now. And that's already too much for people. And that, I find that to be very alarming and very concerning, because as Harsh points out, and Harsh is an awesome dev who's building an Aztec bridge, which means you could have a private L2 and a private L1, which I love. All for it. And if they come, you know, and they've already said, oh, we might need finality for this, or we might need TZEs for this, which are protocol upgrades. And then there's the whole tachyon thing, which is a huge change from the Bitcoin standard. And that's okay because it's a necessary thing to them. It's something that it needs to scale. So we need to do tachyon. So there's a lot of like weird logical kind of shots and counter shots and things like that. But the upshot is that like it's a permissionless system. So people are going to do shenanigans. People are going to do goofy shit like Zerdinals, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop it. And we better get on board with that. And in fact, you know, we might want to pave some of these cow paths to support this activity instead of trying to restrict it. And then everybody wins, because, and whatever gets changed again is going to be the most like scrutinized thing in the world. You know, that we all are aware of what is at stake here. And it's not just money, it's the future of financial freedom, apparently. So yeah. You get it. That's my rant. That's my anti-ossification rant. Thank you for broadcasting this to the world. Yeah.
So, like, my logical flow chart as far as like the decision making around this is, first off, step 0 is who owns the network, like who has ownership over the network.
The people running the node.
And you can when you determine who is considered to own the network, then those people get to decide whatever it is. That's just step 0, right? Before argumentation. Yeah. So like, is it the people that run the nodes? Is it coin holders? Is it miners? Is it a combination? Whatever that is, who those people decide, everyone else can bitch and they can just stuff it. Like, you know, that's kind of like, let's start there. And then you're saying, what is my purpose? Oh my God. You know, what is the purpose of this network?
That's butter. Yeah.
Like, why did you build this thing? And so, and these are considerations again for step 0 for whoever actually makes the final decision. Because if they decide, oh, Zcash is a Zordinal to Zordinal electronic Zordinal system, okay, that's what it's going to be. Screw digital cash, right? That's all. Like, again, whoever decides.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good thought process, thought experiment. Yes. Imagine if Zcash was $30 until today, when Zerdinals launched, and suddenly it went to $1,000 because of everybody wanting to buy Zex so they could mint the 0 BRC20 clone that
then that's
exists.
Definitely the Rick and Morty meme at that point.
And then well, don't touch anything. Now this is the Zerdinal chain. And I mean, is that the outcome we want? I mean, that's not what happened, but imagine if that was the case.
This is Zerdinal country now.
Yeah.
But so the point is, that being said, of like who decides, like who decided at the beginning was Zuko, the founders, and whoever got the founders reward or whatever, whoever that the people that created it decided that at the beginning. And you could say, do they still control the network? Probably not. Probably it's other people. But the point is, the other people decide. So what is the purpose of Zcash? It seems like it's private sound money and digital cash, and that anyone can use, censorship resistant, all this kind of stuff. So it should therefore be prioritized for that use case, probably. And if anything else that happens outside of that is like, no one cares unless it starts hurting that primary use case. And that's where the arguments get a little fuzzy on some of these things. Like, if people clog up the network with a whole bunch of Zerdinals, does that prevent you from transacting privately and having, you know, sovereign money? Probably not, right? In fact, it might make it easier by paying the network more fees that maybe you can't pay enough. So they might be subsidizing your cheap freedom money by paying more. Maybe that's the case. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the miners are definitely happy if there's more transaction volume. There's no doubt about that. And then also, if we have the network sustainability mechanism activated, then those coins do get returned back into issuance, which extends the lifetime of the entire network because it allows to pay miners after the 21 millionth mine is coined. Coin is mined. If you're not familiar, the shieldedlabs.net/NSM, you can learn about the network sustainability mechanism. It's super cool invention. Yet another thing that Zcash, came up with or whatever.
That's not in the original Bitcoin.
That's not in the original Bitcoin. Yeah. So it's yet another divergence from Bitcoin. There's many divergences from Bitcoin in the Zcash protocol. One of which is the existence of the shielded pool. The other one is the difficulty. The difficulty algorithm is tweaked a little bit, and there's the NSM, and there's a number of other things. But it. Yeah, so I don't think it doesn't compromise privacy to have Zerdinals. It's just more transparent transactions because all they're doing is just inscribing on the data on the outputs, and then some algorithm on the other side kind of cobbles all the data back together because it'll be across a bunch of different outputs, and then there's your JPEG or whatever, and then it doesn't touch the shielded pool at all, so it doesn't harm anything. It just you might have a service interruption if there's a CryptoKitties event and there's millions and millions and millions of transactions all happening at once, but those will either just expire or they'll get included in a later block. So it's not the end of the world. We actually detected a huge spike in traffic because of the zero ZRC20 mint on Zerdinals.net or whatever. There's a forum thread about people running nodes being like, I just noticed all this crazy stuff going on. Are we back in 2022 where we're having a spam attack or a perceived spam attack on the network? Like, what's going on? And then it turned out it was that. So it was a kind of a comical outcome.
Yeah. But yeah, that is a thing where the ossification argument, I don't buy. The ossification argument makes sense if you consider the protocol to be perfect and immaculate the way it is. And if it's not, you should is it perfect the way it is? If yes, then keep. If no, then change. And to me, if you're saying it is perfect, that's not an ossification. Even if then you'd have to be making it worse by doing a change. Therefore, if the change doesn't improve it, you shouldn't do the change anyway. So you don't need to be an ossificationist to believe against a bad change. But an ossificationist, you'd have to believe it is good to not change in a better way. It's good to not improve.
Yes,
that's where it gets weird to me.
Logical paths get weird. Yeah. I don't think they think it's perfect. I think they think it's good enough for what needs to happen. Yes, Crosslink would improve finality, and integrations like Starknet and the Aztec bridge would behave better, but they behave fine enough as it is. It's not a big deal to wait 50 blocks for it to be probabilistically final enough. Maybe we can speed up the blocks by implementing Ethereum's proof of work parameters, that maybe then that would be good enough. So it might be a mischaracterization to say it's perfect, but it's also a mischaracterization to say that when this is verbatim what I've been told is that you're just building stuff just to build stuff. And it's nobody's doing that. Nobody's just being like, oh, well, I'm bored. What can I change about Zcash or what can I add?
Which, by the way, I do think that there is something of value in having a network where you can do that. Whether it's a Ycash, it's something like that. You just let's shitcoinify Ycash.
Dude, my dream is Remember Kusama?
I know that.
Ever
I remember
Polkadot?
the network. I don't know too much about it, but I remember it
So
existed.
Kusama, as I understand, is a chaos network for Polkadot. It's a copy of Polkadot that's kind of like a test net, except it has a tradable token. But it's where all the experiments happen. It's where every governance
So it's
experiment
like
you have, every
YOLO
feature.
dot.
It's kind of like that. And I think I made a tweet about this too. I would love if Zcash had its own kind of Kusama where we could just try stuff out and trade it on exchanges or dexes or sexes or whatever, and let's go. Let's just try. Let's put crosslink in there. Let's put a new fee mechanism in there. Let's try this. Let's try that. Let's just see what happens. And as long as the holders of that token understand that everything could just go nuts for a little bit until we fix
Well, that's
it,
the thing with nothing new under the sun is Litecoin was Bitcoin's test net for a while. It's decoupled now, but it was like, oh, Lightning Network, let's launch it on Litecoin first and see what that does. And then, oh, Segwit, let's see if Taproot, whatever else. And then eventually it became where it diverged was like MWeb. The Memorable Extension Block is something that Bitcoin doesn't have. Now, if you believe in Bitcoin's weird ossificationist parameters, but also want it to be used as money, MWeb is a fantastically practical solution.
Yeah,
Because first of all, it's a soft fork. So if you want to just run the old school Bitcoin node, not see MWebs at all, that's fine. But then also it's private, relatively speaking, right? You have confidential transactions, and then the Mimblewimble part of things just jumbles and kind of breaks the transaction graph. It's hard to see. So it offers good instant privacy, or instant as in you just send it and it's pretty private. It's great. But then also so much transaction data is pruned. So the actual blockchain bloat of what you have to store on your node is significantly less. And that's why the Litecoin people feel it's okay to increase that block size, increase the capacity of that, where they don't feel comfortable on the main chain. And so it's like a conservative scaling solution. It's data minimal. It's all in one, and it's private, and it's just, it's perfect for Bitcoin, for the dumb kind of way that they want Bitcoin to work. But it's the perfect compromise, and of course they won't do that. So now it's decoupled. But anyway, I do think there should be there is I'm very interested in symbiotic relationship cryptocurrencies because of just everything cool that comes from that. So for example, Firo is an interesting case in that Firo is, I think it's a Bitcoin fork or something. It was called Zcoin, but it is kind of practically like a Dash fork in that they have master nodes like Dash does. They have instant send for instant transaction finality. They have chain locks for the anti-51% attack stuff. And so it's very Dash-like, but has ZK transactions. And it's sort of in a certain way, a lot of stuff downstream from Dash ends up there. And at some point I would like to have their tech kind of upstream, to Dash, as the privacy test bed for Dash kind of thing. And so there's a lot of sharing that goes back and forth in terms of knowledge and things like that. And I would say, I'm not sure who that is for Monero, but from my understanding, the first idea of full chain membership proofs, which was called Seraphis in the beginning, came from Firo's kind of one of many proofs system that they use. So Firo's privacy has, from my understanding, Spark uses confidential transactions, obviously, for the amounts. And then for the decoy system, it's a one of many proofs, which is a 1 in 64,000 decoy set or anon set. Whereas, full chain membership proofs for Monero would be 1 in everything on the network.
However many,
and for Zcash, it'd be 1 in that times 1,000 or billion or whatever the hell, So it's
and I think in both cases of the way I like to calculate anonymity in Orchard is the amount of coins, the amount of transactions, and the amount of time that it's been in the pool. And I think that holds true with the FCMP++ as well, but I'm not sure. I actually studied that system yet. Nor have I talked any shit about it, by the way, guys.
Yes.
I think
It
it's cool. I think it's cool that
sounds.
the amount of privacy in the universe is increasing. So let me just
Yes.
yeah.
I have yet to hear of a realistic bearish take on full chain membership proofs. Everyone who hears about it seems to say good things about it. Like it's like very high level privacy, and it's relatively lightweight in terms of it's only like 5 kilobytes a transaction or something like that. And I think an Orchard one is like 8 or 9 or something. Again, this is just some stuff I've heard. But so it, and also you don't have to get a new address type for Monero. That's the big thing. You completely overhaul the transaction system, but you can use the old addresses, and that's fine. And it's like that's
Sure.
kind of cool. You know, can you
That is
imagine
cool.
if every shielded pool of Zcash had the same address? You just like, all right, now they're all upgraded. Now it's like that would be cool. Not have to deal with all those annoying addresses. So yeah, there's like
100%.
there's cool stuff happening. But anyway, about like the symbiotic relationship thing, I think it would be cool to have like an experimental Zcash, because every single Zcash shit fork, right, is all been like, it's all been just making it worse. Like, again, this is not super research and just like opinion. So let me just give that disclaimer. But like from my understanding, Z Classic, they just like forked Zcash with no founder's reward and then just didn't do it much with it. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Most of the forks, from my understanding, are sort of adversarial forks of Zcash, where it's like I disagree with this decision or I disagree with this part of the overall design. Like using ASICs for mining is what led to Ycash, and the existence of the transparent pool was led to Pirate Chain, and the dev tax is what led to the dev fund, excuse me, which is not even a thing anymore. It's now the grant program.
yeah, the lockbox.
The lockbox that led to the one you just mentioned, Z Classic. So there's not any proper positive reason to have any of these chains. It's just sort of reactionary to something. But what I thought was interesting when I made that post about like, oh, we need our own chaos network, we need a canary network.
Yeah.
Like somebody said, or don't you mean Ycash? And I'm like, I don't think they're going to let me deploy stuff like experimental stuff on their network. I respect their sovereignty as a network. I'm not going to go and be like, hey, let's do some experiments, guys. Like, I don't even know who they are.
Well, but I mean, you could though. You could like buy the whole supply for like $40 and just do whatever you want. And so I know they got so triggered when I made some just basic joke about that. And the Zcash rabbi guy has been following me around, shitting on all my posts now. He didn't like that.
Oh my god, that
But-
guy needs to calm his ass down.
It's funny though. It's the world.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, listen, and I don't know if Duke's gonna be listening to this, but I know the guy who runs Hush, and I don't know if you heard of Hush, but Hush is it's another Zcash fork, but I think actually does meaningful stuff. The guy who runs it, Duke Leto, has had plenty of run-ins with Zcash devs. So anyone in Zcash I talk to doesn't like him, even though I work with him and I think he's a great guy. I understand. But
Yeah.
anyway, Hush is like a pirate chain style. Again, I'm sure he gets so like, if Duke is watching this, I'm sure he'll have so many like things to say.
What's the differentiator between it and
So,
Zcash? Like,
It's like exclusively shielded, I think, as in it's like, I'm not going to call it private by default because I'm not buying into that nonsense term, right? But it's like exclusively shielded, and it has a few other upgrade or different like actual improvements that, like, when I have talked to like Zuko about some of these, he thought that would sound very good to put in Zcash, for example. Again, I don't want to put words in his mouth, of course, but like a couple of these things are the whole network level privacy argument, right? Where you have
Yes.
and I don't know what I think about that. Like, should it be built into the nodes itself, or should it be like you run them over Tor and then that's good enough kind of thing? Like, I don't really know where. I think I have to research, but you know what Dandelion is, right? Dandelion plus plus. I'm sure you've heard of that.
yes. Monero has it in their network.
Yeah,
now.
and oddly enough, so does Digibyte. And Digibyte has no privacy features really at all, but they have network level privacy in their downloads. I'm like, why did you? That's strange. All right, but
Yeah.
there's this Hush has this version of it called, or this take on the same problem called Hawkweed, which hawkweed is a type of like dandelion cousin. So it's kind of anyway. Hawkweed basically
Yeah.
when you broadcast your transaction, this is my understanding, broadcast to half of the available, like at random, half the available nodes. So, and some other things. So basically, it makes it difficult for someone to, based on connecting to the nodes, know that that's you because it doesn't connect to all of them. It's a little bit of a randomization of connection. So basically, it seems like it does like 70% of the job that Dandelion Plus Plus does with like a 10% of the work kind of thing, like of the latency and other things. So that's a cool thing, which maybe could be applied to Zcash, maybe not. I don't know if that's a discussion. But there's another thing called Seach, which is basically a wallet-based protocol that sends like a few dummy zero outputs to other addresses with every payment. So on the blockchain, everything looks like a multi-party payment, for example. Because like right now, even though everything's shielded, you can tell some has extra inputs, and you can kind of be like, oh, what's that one? Like you can, even though it's shielded. And so this is a way of
More
just like,
yeah.
And so there's like if I were to say, I would say Hush would be the Zcash testnet kind of thing, right? As far as like
right now, practice it seems like it is that now. Yeah. So maybe get in touch with the Hush guy, but I don't know. Also, like the Zcash devs across all the different organizations are not homogenous opinions too. There are people who think we should deprecate the transparent pool. There are people who think we should get rid of Sprout. Like, you know, there's all sorts of varied opinions within Zcash as well too. So people treat it like this sort of one unit with one universal opinion, you know, but it's not quite like that.
Yeah, and I understand, like in Distillman, that misconception. Like when you have like a company that gets investment and launches the thing, and there's a founder's reward that goes towards kind of paying back investors. And for a while, it was mostly ECC doing a lot of stuff, or Zcash Electric Coin Company, whatever it was called back then.
Yeah, Zcash
like,
Company.
You kind of like it kind of has that like unit, like that sort of centralized vibe to it. And then then you get rid of the founder's reward and you go to like the dev fund, and now you got the foundation too, and now you got this, and then the founder is still kind of doing a lot of like decisions, but then like in the more modern era, the founder is now in a side project, Shield Labs, right? And then then now you have a different person, and now like it's progressively decentralizing out. And I think that a lot of like when you hear all this like rage stuff, a lot of it comes from just not paying attention to the project as it goes along. A lot comes from, I looked into Zcash, I saw stuff I didn't like. That's the way it is now.
I read some tweets about it from other people, and now I'm just
or even I did my own actual research, came up with true things, but now I don't update my information now that that's changed.
Yeah,
just like the trusted setup. Like I don't like the trusted setup. It's a perfectly reasonable opinion. It's just there's no trusted setup now. So
update your exactly. And I think you know, to be charitable with that, I think I need to do that with some of the other projects too, like learning about the Dandelion stuff on Monero, or learning about this Hush, these features in Hush. I mean, there's some interesting stuff, and I think I would, you know, a call for more collaboration and more communication between the projects, and not this vitriol. It's the narcissism of small differences when it comes to privacy coins, because everybody has this sort of, rightly so, everybody has this idea about privacy where we need to be uncompromising about this thing. But Zuko had a great post about like we need to now split up the word privacy into words like disclosure and security, and you know, sort of disambiguate this big large concept of privacy, because it can be a boondoggle when it comes to actual things that we're trying to
like cypherpunk values and stuff.
Cypherpunk values, like, you know, and anything, even if you leak one bit of privacy by adding a new feature, you know, that's too much for some people to say, no, that's not worth it, because you're it's sort of a tautological thing where you say, well, this is, you know, this is what I hear from people, and I'm not trying to compromise privacy, by the way, but I hear some people will say something like the following:
Furious.
"This is
typing.
I know, exactly." But people will say literally, "This is a privacy coin," with a certain amount of urgency in their voice, and I'm supposed to go, "Oh, right, I thought, right." You know what I mean? I forgot what we were talking about for a second here, but it's just a truism. It's not like an argument. It's just saying like, "How dare you suggest such a thing? This is the privacy coin, sir."
And like I wrote a post about like what is a privacy coin even that did pretty well and got some annoying people, of course, but like basically like I think that like the privacy market is pumping, so everyone wants to be one right now. And it's like, well, what is a privacy coin? What isn't? And everyone tries to be like the no true Scotsman about it. And like it like as an OG of the space, part of me got annoyed to see like Litecoiners and Decred people being like, yeah, we're part of the crew, whatever.
Hey,
and I'm like,
buddy.
but then I like stop myself and just objectively think, I'm like, do both have protocol built-in features that enhance user privacy? Yes. Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
That's it. I got to stop being a turd.
Yeah,
I got to stop being a turd and be like, well, back in my day, the group, we earned our place. And like, fuck off.
Like,
no.
like you said, everybody says, "Oh, the definition of privacy is my thing, not your thing. Is my coin, not your coin." And we need to get past that a little bit, especially now, especially when there are true adversaries like the EU we were talking about, or like people who would compromise these things or try to break these things.
Yeah,
the people using AI, like Andrew Tate warned us about.
Yeah.
Everybody, which is true, which is again, like, I love that video because I don't watch any other Andrew Tate stuff, and I just saw that everybody quote tweeting that today. But you watch it and it's like, yeah, spot the lie. Tell me where he's wrong in this video.
The funny thing is, like, I think that privacy versus privacy coin is a distinction to have as well, where people care. Like, if it's a privacy coin, they're like, oh, well, that's good. That's a very investor mindset, by the way, very much speculative investor mindset. Is like, privacy's hot, I'm going to buy the privacy thing. Whereas, yeah, it's not like I'm going to transact privately. Whereas, like, if you look, I want to transact, I want private money. So I'm going to take money and I want to use it privately. That expands far beyond the definitions. Like, for example, if you're going to do an integrated protocol level coin join, if that gets you into the privacy club, then you're just like, okay, well, what if you do that on Bitcoin Cash? Is that a privacy coin? Well, no, it's not built into the protocol. But can you get similar privacy using like Decred and Bitcoin Cash? Probably. So does it matter? Or Bitcoin before Samurai got nuked. Or like, what about Ethereum? You use like Railgun on Ethereum. You get something pretty robust there. It's like, okay, is Ethereum like a ZK privacy coin? No, but can you
transact privately? Yeah, I think anybody should be encouraged to do the most private thing possible. And that varies. I happen to believe that holding most of your wealth in the Zcash shielded pool and spending it with CrossPay is at least the top 3 most private things you can do, if not one of the most. But that's my bias. And if somebody comes to me and says, no, actually, check this out, Railgun has this thing where you do this and blah, 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 and it's pretty much, I'm open to that. I'm not going to be dogmatic about it just because, my bags are the way they are. It's not. I recognize that would be hypocritical of me to do that. And I urge other
That might be a term, like bagmatic. You're like dogmatic about your bags.
Bagmatic is pretty good. Yeah.
Bag holder induced dogmatism is bagmatism.
Bagmatism, yeah.
Which, random thing, by the way. We're talking a lot about Zordinals today, and I have to give a shout out to, my at least acquaintance Xenu, who's also been on this podcast. I don't know if you've seen Xeno. He has like the Monero-chan anime girl in his thing. He posted something yesterday about, he says, looks like someone started spamming the Zcash blockchain with transparent transactions, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, it looks like the spam might be caused by Zardinals, unconfirmed, but transaction amounts match the spam. And he says, if you're a Zcash holder, consider donating to my Monero address. I'm covering this while all your influencers suck off the Winkle fraud twins. Like, yeah, it's kind
Well,
of
very
funny.
astute, you know, very astute.
But it's also, I just think it is funny how, like, I guess that maybe that is a fair criticism of influencers, but like, I don't know if we count, but like, we've been talking a lot about these Ordinals unprovoked from Xenu. So just to say that it's not like everyone, just like it's not like every Monero person hates a certain ethnic group of people who like to ban
No, I know.
things,
I just want to
you
say
know?
to Xenu that we did flip you. So who's the quote fucking pussy now?
Did he talk about? Did he say that in context
On
of
Vlad's
flippening?
podcast. No, he didn't say that about the
No.
flipping, but he called us a bunch
Okay.
of fucking pussies.
Yeah,
so
I remember that, and like,
No, I
I'm going to see him.
actually-
Listen, I'm going to see him in person a little bit. I want to have an in-person conversation about it because I think like I understand the sentiment and I respect that sentiment of just like, do the right thing regardless of risk kind of thing. But like at the same time, like I don't think that my personal opinion is having a transparent option is fantastic and useful, especially if you have like DeFi pools and protocols. I want to see how much is in those pools and if they get exploited and drained. I want that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I want to see the trend. There's all these charts that show here's how much is in the shielded pool, here's how much is in the transparent pool. You can picture like a pie chart, like 30% shielded, everything else is transparent. I'd like to see that pie chart get further subdivided in the transparent pool that says this much is Starknet TZEs and this much is Zerdinals and this much is that. So we'll have a better intuition about like what the transparent transactions actually are. Like this much is inflow and outflow from centralized exchanges. This much is that, you know, this much is near intense refunds. Like just different analyses of the transparent pool. And I think people would get a better intuition about like what's going on there than just look at all these fucking idiots that don't know how to, you know, use Zcash or whatever. Or, you know, I think that'd be effective. But
Yeah.
I don't know. To speak to Xenu and to everybody directly, like I think there's who you are on Twitter. I have three personalities right now. Basically, I have who I am on Twitter, who I am on the Zcash forums, which is a very serious, technical person, and who I am in person, who is just me as you see me right now. And I think we all have different facets of our personality. I'm sure if I personally ran into Xenu at a convention and we talked face to face, 2 feet from each other, we'd get along fine. I you know what I mean? I can sort of tell that there's some character acting going on.
Yeah, and like honestly, I do like I say spicy stuff on X too sometimes, or I phrase it in spicy ways that I wouldn't necessarily in person, or I would in person in a joking way, right? As far as like it's funny, like, and you're like, well, if I start singing the Circle of Exit Liquidity when I see a Sailor post, like that's pretty horribly mean to people who might lose money. Right? So it's not like I'm not that much of a jerk, but I am that much of a humor enjoyer. So like,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the in-person thing, I've met a lot of weird maxi people. The thing is, like, weird maxi people are very much of a difference in like the in-person versus online, or in their viewpoints versus their knee-jerk coin kind of stuff. So that is fair to that. I should highlight Litecoin had a post here. It says, "Don't believe anyone telling you opt-in privacy doesn't work because it's not forced on you. Dumbest shit I've ever heard." So I have an article coming out with Vlad Kostia's magazine that talks about that issue exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it was just so funny to be talking about like RWAs one day, like, you know, 12 hours in which again, I feel like is a very soft topic. Like if you're going to do any RWAs on chain, it's a very like minimal thing, low transaction volume. It's not going to be like a CryptoKitties thing, you know, and the transactions would happen very sparingly. then to wake up the next morning and see Zerdnals.net, blah, blah, blah. Here's the inscriptions. Here's a mint of 21 million zero BRC20 tokens. I was like, holy shit. Like, the Ossifier people are going to be pissed about this if they were mad about me just spitballing about RWAs in a Twitter thread. Jesus Christ. So it was very comical. It was very like, and I just grabbed my popcorn and I was like, oh, let's go. Let's do this. This is going to be fun. And I did notice that's cool that Xenu saw that transaction volume, because I caught that. If you look at my feed, I caught that around the same time. I saw like some spikes happening. I was like, oh, here we go. Because Shielded Labs has infrastructure and we monitor that stuff.
Yeah. And I guess I want to be, I don't mind not doing my research on this, because this is credit that if I'm wrong, Xenu deserves less of. So let me give potentially more than Xenu deserves, maybe, if I'm wrong. But as far as I know, Xenu was pointing out the map decoder attack issues with Monera's current, again, not full chain membership fruit, but the current privacy setup, when the findings came out that it's like, this is really bad, actually, and was actually posting about that and not being like a dumb gaslighter like some other people. So credit there. Yeah. And credit for also keeping track of like the cubic attack thing, or whatever you want to call it, the cubic situation reorgs, and not trying to gaslight and hide about that. So at least it does seem like I didn't know very much about Xenu before having him on my show and stuff, but I do think at least he pays attention to like real things, you know?
It's a diamond in the rough. I like it.
Yes. All right, probably a good time to start wrapping this thing up. What do you think?
Yeah, I got to go in 10 minutes here, so that's perfect.
Yeah. So, show the clock.
Let's see. The network sustainability mechanism, the first pull request got merged, which is super cool. So it's one step closer to long-term sustainability of the Zcash mining security. And I'm working on a dynamic fee proposal. So if there's anybody out there that wants to talk about the exhilarating topic of transaction fees with me on a technical level, I'd be happy to entertain them. Other than that, Zcash is awesome, and so is this podcast, and so is Joel. So everybody should retweet and watch more of his stuff.
Yes, and also follow Xenu and watch some Moon Boy pod, whatever it's called, Anti-Moon Boy, whatever it's called. I listened to half of this manifesto. It was like a 2-hour manifesto that I listened to like half of it, and it was pretty good. So look at that stuff too. Come to Moneratopia if you can, and hang out with me and keep me from being stabbed, because it might happen. And yeah, it'll be a good time. And don't forget to start trying to live on crypto. Look on how to privately live on crypto, and start chomping through that guide and with any questions you have.
Cool.
All right. Have a good weekend, guys.
Bye.
Peace.